Today, I'm joined with Ryan Eversley, 2018 Pirelli World Challenge champion in the TCR class, current driver for Precision Racing LA, racing in Audi, ironically enough. We might have to talk about that one. I'm a Georgia guy. He's a Georgia guy. So we always connected on that front. Last time I talked to Ryan was back in 2020, before we knew that a impending pandemic was coming, if I remember correctly. Ryan has always been a great guy, a really good social media presence, and someone who's also known Rutledge Wood for many years. And if you guys know about Rutledge Wood, you should know that Ryan Eversley is in really good company when he does that. He's also the host of his own podcast that reached over 10 years, which is Dinner with Racers. A great podcast. I highly suggest you take a listen to it if you haven't done so before. So, without further ado, we're going to dive into racing, his journey, the season so far, and getting to know the person behind the helmet with Ryan Eversley. And I am now joined by the Ryan Eversley. Ryan, good to have you.
It's good to see you, man. Everything going well?
Man, everything has been extremely well lately for me. I've been enjoying life. I've been enjoying the, I guess you could say, the lack thereof of a grind of being a journalist. But it's not about me today. It's about you, the driver of the Precision Racing LA. What is it? Audi now?
Yeah, Audi S3. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think the last time I talked to you, you were still driving a competitor. I won't say the competitor's name. You know, I don't want Audi to get mad at me.
That's okay. So I don't race for Audi. I race for Precision Racing LA in-house. I'm their pro driver. And I did 10 years with Acura and Honda through HPD, now HRC. So as sour as I felt that ended, I've kind of gotten over it, and I've moved on, you know. So whereas like maybe a year ago, if somebody asked, like, what are you doing? I'd probably not say, or what did I used to do? I probably wouldn't say him by my name, but it's all good. Life goes on.
Yeah, it does. It does. So walk me through this, you know, how's the season been so far? I know it's very short, you know, it's been early, 2 races into the season,
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
You know, walk me through it, getting back onto the grid. I'm just going to be real. You're about 40 now.
I'm 41, dude.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'm 39.
Oh, okay. We'll go with 39 today.
Keep it there. I was born in 85. Totally 85.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've been seeing a crop of new students come up. You've got Joe Rubbo over in the Ferrari that you work with. You've got Rutledge Wood. He's your new student. You've been trying to train a lot of new drivers, a lot of new competition that you actually do face from time to time. You know, what's that been like?
So I know you have quite a few gaming followers, and you've got quite a few NASCAR specific followers. So if you don't know me, I've been racing sports cars since I was 17, and I've made a real career out of it. I'm very proud of that. And so the thing about sports car racing, and actually you can see this a little bit in like Cup as well, like guys like Harvick, you know, pretty high up there in age before they retired, and they were still competitive. Sports car racing's a lot like that too in a lot of ways. We've got a guy named Bill Auberlin who's the winningest driver in IMSA history, or probably sports car racing history in North America, and I think he's like 56, and he won a race last year, you know, and it's early. He could win again this year. So at 41, I feel like I've got at least another decade in me if I want to try to keep this going, which I do. I honestly, like, I have friends that are already talking at younger ages than me about doing other things, and I'm not against that. I understand that I've achieved some of the things I never thought I could, so I'm very satisfied already in my career, but I still love driving. Like, I literally can't wait to get to the track in 2 weeks and drive this Audi at Laguna Seca. And I'm not trying to be corny. Like, I really do. Like, when I get to coach Joe Rubbo in the Ferrari, I get to drive that car, and it's like I still really get excited about going and just doing laps. And other guys like Andy Lally, for example, is one of my best friends. He was never about the driving. He was about the competition. Like, he just wanted to go beat somebody else at something. And for me, it's both. So at 41, I'm still like so stoked to get to go do this. And I know I have another 10 years in me. And I won Indy last year at 40, which I'm talking about it like I'm like already on the way out, but I won Indy last year in GT4, you know, on the podium at COTA in a car I'd never really driven before. And then our first race this year in TCR with the Audi, we podiumed. We're, you know, P3, fastest Audi, highest finishing Audi. And at Sebring, we were on our way to a potential winning that race too, and we had a fuel issue. So, yeah, there's no slowing down for me anytime soon.
Okay. Well, thanks for actually getting into the whole NASCAR thing because, again, you are correct. I do have a pretty good NASCAR following.
Yeah, man.
A lot of people may have remembered you as the driver of the, I believe it was at the time, the number 51. I could have been wrong. It might have been the 53.
So I drove the 53 Ford Mustang for Rick Ware Racing with Nurtec sponsorship. Nurtec, the migraine medicine, which is like the #1 migraine medicine in its category. And that was a really special deal because I'm obviously not a NASCAR driver, but I'm a road course ringer. So I got to do Road America, one of my favorite tracks in the world, and one of the best places. Like the people there are amazing. It's beautiful, and that was also the first time Nurtec allowed a second car in the race in a black livery when their normal purple car is purple is their corporate color.
Mhm.
So to be able to get the approval to do a second car, to get to do the cool black looking one, and it went as I mean, honestly, it went so much better than I expected because I didn't get to do any testing. I didn't even get to do a seat fitting just because the way it worked out. I was in Alaska when I got the call that I was doing it, and I went right from Alaska to Watkins Glen. I had 2 races there, and I went right to NASCAR. So it was not the way you should do it, but honestly, it went so well that I tell people all the time if I got a chance to do another one, I'd have to think about it pretty hard because it was such a great experience. I don't want to have a bad one to follow it up. It's like let's end on a personal high. But at the same time, if somebody called tomorrow and said, "Do you want to do this?" Of course, I'm going to go do it.
Gotcha. I was thinking about that NSX GT3. I think you also ran that year for Rick Ware Racing.
That was the 51, I believe.
Yeah. I knew I was going to get my wires crossed eventually. First of all, for people who watch my channel also, they know that my current car number in NASCAR Thunder 04, because it's one of the few double-digit numbers that you can grab. My car number is number 53 in the game. So
hell yeah!
I was like, I'm gonna hopefully remember it, and then I don't remember it. But then I remembered your NSX drive, which also I believe happened the year before or that same year. You had a lot going on.
Yeah. So the NSX program, I think, came the following year, and we had Nurtec on that as well. And we didn't get the results we wanted out of that program, unfortunately. But and actually, I learned a lot of lessons in that program. But Rick and Lisa, they're just such nice people. They've always been so kind to me, even well before I drove for them. And the way that all kind of came together was like maybe like 12, 14 years earlier at Daytona, the 24-hour. I ran into them at a sushi restaurant at Ronin, and I knew who, because I'm a NASCAR fan. I'm just a racing fan in general of all types. And so I saw Rick at the sushi bar, and I just went over and said, "Hey, Rick, it's cool to see you here," because he was running a Mustang GT car in the 24-hour, and he's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "My name's Ryan Eversley." And he knew my name from social media, but he didn't know my face. But he was like, "You recognized me?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, you're a NASCAR owner." And so that kind of started a little bit of a friendship. And then his son Cody came to do Lamborghinis against us, and I was already racing in that series as well, and I'd had some success. So I think we were at Watkins Glen, and then they just asked if I could go. Like, I think he called me. He's like, "Hey, can you go over to their trailer and just talk to him for a few minutes, give him some notes?" And I did. And so you never know where some of those relationship things can lead to. And eventually it got me a chance to do a NASCAR Cup Series race against the cream of the crop of NASCAR. And then it also led to a GT series, a season of GT sprint racing, I think 8 races, and an NSX. So, it helps to be friendly. It helps to know the right people and time and a place. And then also luck plays a role in it too.
True. Now, you talking about NASCAR being the cream of the crop. You weren't just any slouch yourself. If I remember correctly, you won a championship before even coming in NASCAR. So you can go ahead and list yourself as a cream of the crop type of driver, former champion of your own ride.
I appreciate that. I know that when I'm racing, especially touring cars, it's kind of become my home for the last decade now. I think I'm one of the best in the world, and I don't say that to be egotistical or whatever. I've just raced against the best in the world who I consider to be, and I've beat them or been right there with them or whatever. So I know what I do. I'm very, very, capable and very competitive. But when you go to the NASCAR side, I know I can turn a wheel as good as anybody, but they know those cars, they know the pit stops, obviously the intricacies that comes along with doing setup changes. And I met my crew chief the day before at 7 a.m. and we're supposed to go up against Keselowski or Kyle Busch or whatever. So it was such a cool experience because I'm still a fan. I'm still a kid that wants to drive cars and like watch them on TV and all that nerdy stuff. And I remember seeing, I think it was Truex was behind me leaving pit lane for the first practice session. And I look up in the mirror and we're parked waiting to get to clear out to go on the racetrack. And I look up in the mirror and all I see is like Bass Pro Shops, like right in the mirror. And I literally, like a little kid, was like, "Oh, no way." You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
look, it's Truex.
That's how I felt when I first went to my first IMSA race at Road Atlanta. I was like, oh,
Okay.
no way. I see a Honda Civic Type R. I've never seen this in person. Holy crap. But of course, I wasn't like you. You were on pit road. I was just on the sidelines.
It's the same thing though, man. Like I remember I was sitting there and Kyle Busch Chase Elliott was doing a drive-through pit lane to like check pit speed or something, and so that's why they're holding us. And so as I'm looking up and I see the Bass Pro Shops car, I'm like, whoa, Truex! And then in front of me, here comes the 9, right past it, right in my windshield, and I was like, oh, Chase Elliott. That's cool. That's so cool. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was just a great experience. The funniest sorry, I shouldn't cuss. The funniest thing about the race to me was watching some of these guys that I absolutely know are they're awesome race car drivers and they're very talented and they've got huge careers, do some really, really dumb sorry.
You're okay.
Just like seeing them drive off the road at the outside of 6 and keep their foot in it and just like drive it back on and like drill a guy. And you're like, as I'm seeing this, I'm watching it through my windshield, like that was so dumb. And then also like, but I guess whatever. We're doing
it is NASCAR. It's not like sports car racing. In sports car, you have to keep that car,
exactly.
if I'm not mistaken, for like the entire season.
Yeah,
and it gets really expensive.
That's exactly right. And a lot of people don't realize that. We don't have backup cars in our trailer. We don't have 6 cars back at the shop or 30 like they did back in the day. Like I remember going to, I think it was Turner's shop when they had an Xfinity and truck program back in probably like 09, 2010, somewhere in there. And there was probably like 35 chassis just like waiting to get an engine and go. And I'm like, whoa, we don't have that. We have 1 to 2 cars for the year. A NASCAR chassis, if I recall, the current Cup Series might be different because I think someone else, Dallara, builds it or something. But you used to be able to build a tube frame like Xfinity car currently, I think for like $30,000 or something. And then you put the stupid expensive motor and the gearbox, all that stuff's where the money comes in. But like our car without the motor is still like $200,000. So you can't just go smashing into people all the time. But the other thing is like even though at the end of a race, I'll use my car up if I have to go win. Like I'll put a door on somebody and we'll get into it. But this was like lap 3 at Road America. A Cup race is always 3 hours or more, and they're on lap 3 slamming each other, just like, let's get this over with. And I'm watching like, we got a long way to go, boys. Like, what are we doing here? It was really funny, like really funny. And then I'll tell this quick story. Ryan Newman, for some reason, shunned me when I walked into the media. Like after you qualify, they send you to the media bullpen, which I'm sure you've been to many times.
Yeah.
And I didn't know to go down there, so I'm standing there after qualifying, just like big grin on my face. And Lally was there with me, and our Kate, our marketing media lady, came up to me. And she's like, "Hey, you're supposed to be at the bullpen." And I was like, "Oh God!" So I run down to like the end of pit road, and I talked to Nate Ryan from NBC. He was so nice and like gave me like a lot of love. And as I'm walking in, Ryan Newman's walking out, and I've got my driver's suit on, it zipped up. I'm full NASCAR mode, nerd tech everywhere. And I can't remember I think he just had a Roush suit or something. But anyways, he's coming out. And I give him like the what's up nod, like, hey man, like I'm on cloud 9, dude. I'm racing NASCAR, life is good. Give him the what's up nod. He shuns me. He just doesn't even respond. And he looked right in my eyes, like just nothing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, Ryan Newman's and so the next day, as we're going to the carousel, I'm running him down. He's in the 6 car, by the way. He's in the Roush 6. He's in Mark Martin's 6.
Right.
And they're at the time, Roush isn't as good as they are now, but still better than Rick Ware Racing's program's 5th car for a one-off. And I'm running this dude down. And he's like dropping wheels coming out of the carousel. And I was like, oh, buddy, I got you. And so as I'm going by him into the kink, I was thinking to myself, like, why didn't you just smile? Just be nice. It's so dumb how race car drivers will think about stuff like that at these massive opportunities. But yeah, I'll never forget that. If I ever interview Ryan Newman on my show, I'll totally tell him about that story. I bet he'll be like, yeah, I didn't care who you were, which is absolutely fine.
I just didn't know who you were at the time. I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I passed you. So right. It was a great experience. Every time I talk about the NASCAR day, like it was just, so the final story I'll tell about it, because I don't know if your fans have heard me or not, but the song "Sweet Sweet Fantasy" by Mariah Carey, that like really bubbly, like do song. As I'm driving out of the racetrack, and I'm staying with my friend Nathan Bonneau, who is my team manager at Real Time Racing, we won championship together. He has a house about a mile from Road America. And so to make this all work, he's like, hey, borrow our team van. It's at the airport waiting for you. Sleep on our couch in our spare room. Like, because it was like, all hands on deck to try to make this happen. So after the race, I'm like, I'm going to go hang out with Nathan and my buddy Gino Carini that live in Elkhart Lake. We're having a nice night, which we did. I'm pulling out of the track and that Sweet, Sweet Fantasy Mariah Carey song comes on. And I'm in like a Honda Odyssey minivan, like we're not leaving in a limo or
Right.
something cool. And I crank it, and I've got the windows down, and I'm pulling out of Road America, just like do. It was like the happiest I've ever been in my life, and so that's why I say I don't know if I need another NASCAR opportunity, because that one was just so perfect.
Yeah, you know what? It sounds perfect. I never got a chance to hear the story from your NASCAR day, because I believe at that time I had literally just exited journalism full time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to hear that, and to kind of hear that you still have this young, youthful exuberance about you when it comes down to things like being in the NASCAR garage, being around NASCAR drivers and stuff like that. So that kind of brings me to my, next question. What first got you into racing? I do know that you talk heavily about your dad's influence. So was that really where you first got into racing?
So there's like over my shoulder, you can see there's like a bunch of little models and stuff. All these models are my dad's race cars. I think there's only like this Acura's. These two are mine, that's mine. But like the rest of these cars right here, cars my dad raced at Le Mans or, Sebring, Daytona, all over the world. And so before I was born, my dad was a mechanic. He's English. He's from London. He was born over there. And over there, racing is like the NFL is here. It's a massive deal, and everybody wants to be a part of it. You can see that now with F1 with Drive to Survive. It's become like but it's always been big over there.
Mm-hmm.
So he grew up as a mechanic and engineer, and very, very capable, very talented fabricator. He can weld anything. He's just super, super talented. And he's very quiet and reserved and keeps to himself, which is the exact opposite of me. I get that from my mom. But he worked for some really, really top level sports car programs. He actually worked alongside McLaren. They have a side project called Project 4. They built a bunch of BMW M1 pro cars for drivers like Niki Lauda and Jochen Mass, all these guys to race. And so the reason my helmet is orange, and I use orange for a lot of things like my podcast logo and everything, is that my dad worked with McLaren Project 4. And so I didn't know that as a young kid. I learned that probably in my early teen years. And I really started paying attention to it at that point. I was like, wow, Dad, you're good enough to work with Ron Dennis at McLaren. That's pretty impressive. And he's like, okay. He just does not. He has no fanfare for himself. He's just getting on with the job. So that's what got me interested in racing from a very young age. My mom also worked with a lot of the teams. My mom and dad met because my mom was a travel agent that used to do the tickets for one of the teams he worked for. And because they were doing a lot of last minute racing trips, which is very common even to this day, she would sometimes, and this is like late 70s, early 80s, she would hand deliver the tickets. Like she would be like, okay, hey, look, these guys are flying tomorrow. There's no digital anything. I can't mail it to him in time. So I'm going to drive my car across town, across Atlanta, and I'm going to go to hand deliver tickets to these teams so they can fly out tomorrow to go to this random test or whatever. So there's just things like that are so different about their time versus ours. But that's how my parents met. And then they're still together to this day. They actually got married on a green card to keep my dad from leaving the country. And then started dating about a year later. And then I came along about a year after that. And so they're still together to this day. So it's a very, very unique family.
Your family is really amazing. So that's really cool to hear that you tied the orange from, your dad working with McLaren. And then, of course, you mentioned Dinner with Racers, a really good podcast. I listen to it. I'm a daily consumer. And if you're listening to this video, you need to become a daily consumer of Dinner with Racers, because it just turned 10. Yeah,
10-year anniversary this year. We started this idea. If you don't know my show, it's literally a long format conversation with somebody in motorsports, not necessarily a driver. It's not called Dinner with Racers. And
did I say Dinner with Drivers?
No. But a lot of people do.
Okay.
Like a lot of people say it to me. And my favorite line is, and they're being sweet, so I'm not trying to make fun, but they'll be like, I love your show. I've listened to so many Dinner with Drivers episodes. It's crazy. I'm like, have you? Like, have you though? Because you got the name wrong. That's the first part. Anyways, we do long format interviews over a meal with someone in motorsports, journalists to mechanics to crew chief to drivers. So, and we try to make it a road trip scenario. So what we used to do is in the off season, we do this one long 25 to 30 day trip where we would drive from Atlanta to New York to LA to Denver, all over the country. And Continental Tire came on the first year with us, and it was kind of like, who knows how this is going to work? And we put it out there, and we got like 250,000 downloads without any marketing behind it because we just launched it. And so that was really eye-opening. And I'll never forget when we started to get the numbers in, that it was one of those like, oh, this is real now. Like, I just said a lot of things to a lot of people, and a lot more people heard it. And that's when you go, oh, okay, I have to not only do a good job here, but I got to be careful what I say and how I say it. And not even in a bad way. Like, what if I'm just saying something, I've got the word wrong and I sound like an idiot? You know what I mean? It's like things like that you don't really think about when you're just BSing with your friends. So, yeah, it started out as an idea with a bunch of us racers that were going to dinner on race weekends to see our friends, and we just be talking trash, telling rental car crashing stories, and things like that. Food
Please,
fights,
no rental car crashing stories.
yeah, kind of how it starts, right? And then we it whittled down to just my friend Sean Heckman and I, and we kept the conversation going. Now we're here 10 years later. We've got millions and millions of downloads, and that's so freaking crazy to me. We've interviewed people from the likes of Mario Andretti to Tony Stewart to guys like Larry, from guys like Mario Andretti and Tony Stewart to guys like Larry Holt, who runs Multimatic, probably the most influential single person in motorsports, even though no one knows who he is because he's a behind the scenes guy. Bill Riley's become like a close friend, who's one of the most successful sports car constructors of all time. Tommy Kendall, Trans Am stars. We got I think we've got 3/4 of the IndyCar grid covered. It's been really, really cool. We just did one with Chad Knaus, probably the greatest NASCAR crew chief in history. It's just been insane to me, not only the access we've been able to get, but then the stories we've been able to get out of people. And I think a lot of it comes down to Sean and I are both racers ourselves, and so we're not coming at it from a journalist standpoint. We're coming at it from I'm not trying to get something out of you that you don't want out there. I'm just trying to get something out of you that you might not realize should be out there. And having said that, we've had several stories or one-word slip-ups or things like that we're like, we're just going to have to go ahead and take that out of the whole thing because it doesn't help the story. My job isn't here to try to burn you in some way, like, aha, shouldn't have said that. Right. It's more
like, you were cheating in 2020.
Right. Unless you want me to hear that. You know what I mean? Unless you're like, check this out. But the whole point of it is like, let me get to know this person, not necessarily their race stats, because I can go on Google or Wikipedia right now and look up a lot of stuff. I can't necessarily find out that you might have had a pet dog that you named after your grandfather, who you ended up naming your kid after. So it sounds like you named your kid after a dog. There's random stories like that you get out of people. Chad Knaus, for example, was telling us about how he used to go to the tanning salon, like on a regular basis back in like 1994. And as he said it, he's like, I can't believe I just told you guys that. It's like, well, it's going in, dude. It's pretty awesome. So,
true. I would have never guessed that Chad Knaus was a regular purveyor of tanning.
Right. Yeah, no, it wasn't like he went once. He was like a regular. So, no, it's been unbelievable. And we couldn't have done it without Continental Tire sponsoring it. But also the biggest thing is that the fan reaction has been unbelievable. We've sold so many tires, and the thing we tell people is like, look, we're making a little bit of money on this now, and by a little bit, I mean it's not even close to what I make from my real racing career. So, if I couldn't survive on it, neither could Sean. But we are getting paid to go talk to some of the greatest people in motorsports history, and it's unbelievable, And when we hear from a fan, like I just got a note 2 days ago because we announced the 10-year thing. This fan that's now working as a mechanic for a race team, he's like, I listened to the show because a friend of mine knew I liked racing. And after listening to a couple episodes, I went and got a job in racing. And now that's his career. And you're like, oh, wow, we kind of, helped someone along their way to be inspired. So none of this was what we considered when we started out. It was literally like, let's go get some good stories out of people, do something that no one else is doing. And it might be pretty neat. And here we are 10 years later, and we've got just unbelievable support.
True. I've been enjoying dinner with racers, and I've been enjoying seeing you on social media. You're right about the Wikipedia thing. By the way, I don't know if you knew, your Wikipedia page is out of date.
So somebody just texted me about this like 3 weeks ago. I've never touched the thing. I don't know how to do Wikipedia other than read it. But what I noticed about this like 4 years ago, somebody listened to my podcasts or interviews with other people, and they were using that to edit it. because there's so
Wow.
many details in there. I'm like, what? How do they know that? And it's got to be from like interviews or whatever. But yeah, no, I honestly, I used to be like, oh man, I got to check that. Now it's like whatever, unless it says something like that's like mean or insulting. I don't really care what it says.
True, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still has you. It still I think it still has your 2021 drive still on there.
Okay.
I think that was like the last time I checked it, but I haven't checked your Wikipedia, and I'm not even gonna lie, probably the last 4 months, because
Yeah.
it's something that I just don't really check. I don't look for all the stats and things like that. Just like how you mentioned. What I really care for is who you are, and you're a Georgia guy, and a lot of people don't understand this. You're a Georgia guy, kind of like the Cody Rhodes. He's a Georgia guy.
Yeah, there you go.
So a lot of people don't know that we all kind of were in the same little circle here, and believe it, and it's weird. A lot of people don't know this. I lived down the street from you, from your hometown.
Yeah.
You lived in Lithonia, Georgia before.
Born and raised in Lithonia. Yeah, I was born and raised.
It to Stonecrest City.
Is that what they're calling it now? I still call it Lithonia.
Yeah, I still call it the same.
Yeah, no, me, you, and Donald Glover, buddy. Like, I love the fact that Donald Glover is one of, Childish Gambino if you're into rap, but he's also a fantastic comedian and actor, producer. Huge fan of him. We basically went to rival high schools at the same time. Not, I didn't know that obviously, but now that I've become a fan of his and looking him up, so I'm like super proud of that guy and the fact that we both are from Lithonia. But he put out a song like a year ago called Lithonia. I was like, my man, keep it coming. So we're representing our little tiny area. But yeah, no, born and raised Lithonia. In Duluth, Georgia, Joan Clancy Memorial Hospital was where I was born. And then when I was about 12 years old, my dad got the opportunity to take on and basically launch the Panos Motorsports program, which for a long time was based out of Road Atlanta. They had these very famous front engine prototypes and GT cars. And they also owned the Chateau Elan and Road Atlanta. And so my parents moved out to Winder, which is where they still live now, about 15 minutes south of Athens. 20-minute drive from Road Atlanta. And so that moved us out to the country. So I got the best of both worlds growing up. I got to live in like a normal suburb, with kids playing in the street and going home when the street light comes on, to moving out to the country and being able to learn how to play with dirt bikes and quads and three-wheelers and BB guns, and eventually, fishing and all that stuff. So, I had a very great upbringing because my parents are not very... They're not traditional. They're very unique in their own ways, and they've always let us have our own thoughts on things. They've never tried to force anything on us at all. Like if we were into something, they would support it. But I don't think once in my life we were told we had to like dress a certain way or believe a certain thing and stuff like that. And I think all three of us have pretty bright personalities because of that. So every now and then when you travel abroad and you tell someone you're from Georgia or the South, you get a kind of a look, like, what are your values or what are your thoughts on things? And I know you can appreciate where I'm going with this. And my parents, my dad, obviously from London, traveled the world. My mom and my grandfather, more to the point, he was in the State Department. So he traveled all over the world. Every 2 years, they would move to another country, generally a third world country, and he would work in the State Department there and just do relations with the U.S. and things like that. So my parents both grew up traveling the world for two very different reasons. And so they're very worldly in their thoughts on things. So I've never seen from my family any sort of prejudice against anything other than kindness. If you're mean, we'll be mean back. But otherwise, it's like just I treat you how you treat me, and I hope for the best. And so I went to China for an Acura race. I did a time attack event there for a Chinese businessman who bought one of the NSXs, and he wanted to bring in a factory. We got to beat the crap out of everybody, and that's exactly what we did, and it was awesome. But when I got there, I remember the first dinner I had with the guy, and the Chinese are very specific about their rules and manners and traditions and things like that. And so I knew I had to bring a gift. And no one told me this. I just looked all this stuff up because I wanted to be a good representative of my country and my family and things like that.
And yourself.
And my sport and myself. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I looked up to bring a gift. I brought a nice bottle of champagne from over here. And whiskey. I don't know why I said champagne.
It's probably because you're thinking about celebrating on the podium again.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I was like, yeah, we won. We got really drunk. No, so I bought a nice bottle of whiskey from over here, and I sat that at the table, and my host was very kind. He's like, I got a question for you. You're from Georgia, And we were told that when they asked if you wanted to come to China, you were like chomping at the bit. I was like, absolutely, man. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to get to come here, let alone compete here, you know? And he's like, okay, because Georgia and some of their traditional views on things. I was like, time out, time out, time out, time out, time out. Let me stop you right there, sir. I was like, if you treat me nice, I'll treat you nice. And that's how it is. And he shook my hand. He's like, we're going to have a great trip. And we did. And we did. And I was like, wow, he wanted to say something up front to get ahead of any potential stereotypes or racism or prejudice or anything. And I'm like, wow, so it's something that people think about, you know? And it was just a very eye-opening trip in so many positive ways that I'm so glad I got to do it. But I give a lot of that credit to my parents for raising us, in my opinion, the right way.
True. Alrighty. So we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
But you know, what's it been to decompress after a tough race weekend? What's something that a lot of people don't know? Because we know you post on Threads and Twitter when you say home Jeeves. Yep. I've unintentionally started saying that when leaving my job, and I work just north of Atlanta. And every time I get behind the wheel of my 2016 Scion TC, I always say home Jeeves.
Home Jeeves. Yep.
So it's what's it like?
So I started the home Jeeves thing. I've got a lot of little dumb bits I do just to keep life fun and interesting. So like, if I've gotten a good race result and we've gotten on the podium, I started doing this in 2010. Podium pizza. It's like if we're on the podium, we got a trophy, we're getting pizza tomorrow, and like fans just loved it, so it's become a whole thing. And so podium pizza is a big one if we've done well. I finished fourth one year, and a fan brought me a pizza, and I was like, buddy, I can't eat this. Like, what are you doing to me here? You're like, we're loading the trailer. I'm mad. So now one of the things I've learned in the last 5 or 6 years is that there's more to life, and like my career has been unbelievable. It's been way better than I ever expected it could have been, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's brought people from all parts of the world into my life that I'm still friends with, and I really enjoy the camaraderie of our sport, and I think you do too. So I'm always trying to create relationships with people if we get along well, even though I might not get to work with them anymore. And so that's one of the things I love about our sport, is that we all travel from different parts of the world into one location, and then we can have these little quick moments of friendship that you see them and then you're back to work, and that's really neat versus just going to the same office every day and seeing the same people. It's a cool way to earn a living. So when I come home, I like to decompress. Like I generally, Monday, Tuesdays are my Saturday, Sunday. Monday, I try to turn my phone off, and it's like, leave me alone. Even if it's a good weekend, leave me alone. I want downtime. I want quiet. I want to do dumb things like clean my house as I'm looking around my kitchen and in my living room. I want to do all my laundry, get all that stuff done. I want to go for a walk and get my favorite cup of coffee. And like, it sounds cliche, but it's literally the little things in life now that I'm much more excited about. Like, nowadays, for a perfect example, I just went to Sonoma to coach for Precision Racing LA in the Toyota GR Cup class. And I flew in early that morning, got my rental car. I went right to In-N-Out Burger, have to do it. And then I went to a hike that I had looked up, and there's a little waterfall. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get there. I'm going to go make this trip not a work trip. I'm going to go hiking day one right away and try to find something interesting. And I go hiking up this trail. I get to the top. It rained the day before, so there's this massive waterfall. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sticking my head in the waterfall. Like, of course, I'm going to cleanse myself in the river of Sonoma or whatever. It was
why can I envision this as a thing? Why can I envision
it? But it was like, it wasn't just a work trip. You know what I mean? It's like I made it fun. And so that's what I've been trying to do with my life a lot lately, is the second I'm off the clock, so to speak, I'm still there for my PRLA guys. Like, if Mario, my boss, calls me any time or day, I'll answer, no question. Sean, the same thing. Like, I try to be as open for my guys that I work with as possible. But my downtime is now my time. And one thing that I've recognized, especially the last couple of years, is I don't need more racing in my life. So when people ask me like, hey, do you have a sim? I'm like, absolutely not. Because I have a career, I have a podcast, I have a TV show, all based on racing. And then a lot of my friends here in Atlanta are racers. So it is nice to go hiking. It is nice to go to a festival or a music show or something like that and not talk about racing. So yeah, I'd say the biggest thing the last couple of years is like thinking about life after and trying to find things that excite me as much as possible. And also just thinking about the bigger picture in general. You've probably noticed I've become a little more vocal on social media about politics. I'm not loving what I'm seeing right now out of a lot of things. And we'll leave it at that, because I don't think one way in terms of political stance. Like, parties to me, I think, are ridiculous, but kindness and humanity is what I'm really concerned about. And so that's something that 5 years ago I probably would have just put my head in the sand and be like, focus on you. And now I'm a little bit more concerned for the greater good and for my fellow human beings. So, and those are things that are coming with age. So I'm trying to instead of toe the company line or just be a sheep. I want to make sure that if people follow me and look to me for guidance on anything, even though they shouldn't when it comes to politics, you have a friend in me. You know what I mean? Like, and so every now and then I'll post something about what's going on, and it's like, dude, no one asked, but here's my thought. The amount of response I get from people going, "Hey, thanks for saying something," because no one else is, and that makes me feel better. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of I'm venting because I want to feel better. So, yeah. So life after racing is already starting to. We started this conversation a little bit on talks of retirement, and I've definitely noticed in the last couple of years I need to think about life after, and not in a oh no, it's coming, more in a like what will I do with the next chapter, and that's actually pretty fun to think about.
True. All right, so real quick, we got time. Lightning round. When I say lightning round, I mean almost one word.
Gotcha.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry. So, ready? Favorite track?
VIR.
Okay. Pre-race ritual?
Hip hop music.
Dream car?
McLaren F1.
Okay. If you weren't racing, you'd be?
Probably something in the military.
Okay. And last thing, where can fans follow your journey?
Biggest thing I'm doing right now is Instagram at Eversley. I'm also on Threads. It's basically Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I am on Twitter, X, whatever you call it now, but I'd say 9 times out of 10, just check my Instagram story.
Okay. And I appreciate your time so much. Thank you so very much for coming through, Ryan Eversley. And for those that don't know Ryan, you should get to know him. And hopefully this video gives you a chance to know who he is, learn who he is as a driver, more than just a driver. The human being behind that helmet, the helmet that you see week in and week out in IMSA. You know, he's a great guy, and hopefully everybody will enjoy and resonate with your viewpoints here today, Ryan. I appreciate you so very much, and I hope one day I can get back out to a racetrack. It's been rough for me to get back to the track, but I'll get back there one day. So thanks so much for taking the time.
My pleasure. You definitely will. We'll see you again soon. So thanks for always reaching out and connecting with me. It means a lot.
No problem. Thank you.